what's going on right here in Pagosa. This is your opportunity to kind of get an update from Congressman Tipton and see what's going on back in the East Coast and how it affects you and get your questions answered as well. So a lot of times when we do these town halls, I'll pass out tickets so we can, and we'll just draw numbers to see, so we can take a random opportunity to get your questions answered. But I think with the size crowd we have, I don't think that's going to be needed tonight. So we'll just try to keep things moving as much as we can and cover as many questions as we can in the hour that we've got. So with that in mind, I'll just go ahead and, if you would mind turn down your cell phones, I'd appreciate that. And we'll go ahead and get started. I'll let Congressman Tipton make a few comments, and then we'll start taking questions. So just appreciate that, and thank you again for coming this evening.
Great. Well, I'd like to thank all of you for taking time out of your evening to be able to be here. This is actually now our 47th town hall meeting that we've held throughout the 3rd Congressional District. We've covered, I think, virtually every county now in the 3rd CD to be able to reach out and be able to hear actually voices of our folks and do the best of our ability to be able to take that message back to Washington, to be able to express our views. And just to give you a little bit of background as we're closing in on the end of this 112th Congress, what we've been able to accomplish through our office. We've been standing up actually for what I believe to be Colorado values. Many of you may have heard at the beginning of the year the Forest Service is going to start requiring our ski areas and also ranchers who have leases on federal lands and had paid for and developed those water rights on federal lands to sign them over to the federal government. We fought back. Called in Harris Sherman of the Forest Service. We brought in Mr. Tidwell of the Forest Service. I was able to work with Rob Bishop, who chairs the subcommittee that oversees parks and public lands through the Natural Resources Department, to be able to hold a hearing on this, and we were able to hold that rule. I felt this is important because in Colorado we have something called priority rights, private property rights. We also have state laws to be able to govern our water here in the state of Colorado. We do not want the federal government taking over our water. I'm pleased to be able to report to you as a result of those actions, the National Forest Service did back off of that rule, was holding it. It is now in litigation, and we stand ready to be able to act with a legislative remedy as well, should they attempt to bring that ruling back as well. One other point that I think is important for our farm and ranch community as well. I sit on 3 committees: Natural Resources Committee, the Ag Committee, and then the Small Business Committee. In the Small Business Committee, I chair a subcommittee that oversees energy, ag, and trade. We'd heard that the Department of Labor was proposing a new rule that was actually going to impact how our children were going to be able to work on the family farm. The rule would have actually gotten to the point that the stack of hay was over 6 feet. Your children couldn't work on it. They could not handle a mature animal. I grew up over in Cortez, as many of you know. We have a thing called 4-H. You start out with a calf and you raise that steer basically to maturity, take it to the fair, you sell it, and we're teaching not only the fundamentals of private enterprise, but also responsibility, what cash flow is about. It's how our kids learn the farm and ranch business. They weren't going to be able to handle those mature animals. So we called a hearing through the committee that I chair. Typically, you get the testimony about 3 days before committee. We didn't hear a word, but the day before our committee hearing, the Department of Labor said that they were holding the rule. They were going to examine it. So we went ahead and held the hearing anyway. I'm pleased to be able to report to you that the rule has now been held for the balance of the year. The administration just announced that they were going to hold that for the balance of the year. So we're trying our best to be able to stand up for our farm and ranch community as well. There's one caveat on those 2 rules that I would like to be able to just address just briefly. On each of those cases, it was they're held for this year. They'll be back. And one of the big concerns I think that we all have to have, we all understand, we have better than 30 pieces of legislation that we've passed through the House of Representatives, many with bipartisan support, that are sitting stacked like cordwood on the front door of the United States Senate waiting for action. So there isn't a lot of legislation moving through, but we continue to see rules and regulations that are being put forward out of the bureaucracy. And through that hearing that I held, and some of the questioning, I just wanted to be able to inquire who asked for the rule, what member of Congress, of the House of Representatives, what member of the Senate asked for this rule? None did. This was growing organically out of the bureaucracy. So this is where we've got to be vigilant. We were able to pass through the House of Representatives the REINS Act, which is able to address regulatory impact when we've got the big cost going across this nation of $100 million. We have to be able to facilitate a method by which Congress is allowed to be able to roll up their sleeves, to be able to get back to work and engage the bureaucracy on these rules, because we've seen such an overreach in terms of the impacts on our daily lives. One of the first town hall meetings that I held was in the San Luis Valley, over in Monte Vista, with potato farmers. When I went in, it was just to be able to hear about our issues. And I'm Coloradoan, so I knew what to expect. We're going to talk about water. No, we were going to talk about the EPA. That was their concern. The overreach that we are seeing out of these bureaucracies is truly extraordinary. The cost of these rules and regulations is impacting our ability to be able to create jobs, to get this economy moving, and to be able to provide for our families. Right now, we're paying $1,750 billion annually in compliance in this country. In compliance. Now, some of our friends, whenever you talk about regulations, they want to take it to the extreme. That you don't want any regulations. Not the case. The example I like to give is at the beginning of the 1900s when we were building cars in this country, we had two automobiles that were in New York City, back where you're in New Jersey, close enough. But had two automobiles back in New York City. They ran into each other. So a stoplight is not a bad thing. We need some rules. We need some regulations. We all understand that, but we've seen an overzealous regulatory body that is impacting our ability. Right now, small businesses on average are paying $10,685 a year on just regulatory compliance per employee. Those are real impacts. I've been able to get 5 bills through the full House of Representatives. Each of my bills, I'm pleased to be able to report to you, passed with bipartisan support through not only committee, but then on the full House of Representatives. Carried, here's something that I think has some great local impact, and I'm very hopeful that we're going to see some economic prosperity actually develop out of this, was the designation of Chimney Rock as a national monument, at no cost to the American taxpayer, by might add. We're hopeful that this will be able to pass. We got that through the House with overwhelming support. Unfortunately, our senators were not able to get a vote through the United States Senate. The President has gone ahead and designated it. I'm hopeful that this will actually yield economic benefit to our area. We rely on tourism coming through here. It's a great economic stimulus. They come, they spend their dollars, and they leave. And that's great for our communities as well. 2 bills that I would like to focus on that I think are going to be important, and I think it speaks to the heart of the issue that is impacting every one of us. As we go throughout the 3rd Congressional District, almost every one of our counties right now is at or approaching better than double-digit unemployment. Those are just the official numbers. Just received a number just a couple days ago that I thought that was truly astonishing. Up in Mesa County, the official unemployment is 10.8%. The real unemployment, when you factor in the underemployed and those who are simply getting up and looking for work, is sitting at 19.5%. We've got to be able to get America back to work. 2 bills that I proposed I think will help achieve that end. The first was the Small Hydroelectric and Jobs Act of 2012. And what this is, it's actually going to be able to create clean energy and to be able to create some jobs in our communities. Many of you, if you grew up here, you're well aware that the Bureau of Reclamation has built conduits, pipelines to be able to transport water throughout the western United States. What my bill was going to provide for was the allowance of putting in small hydroelectric plants along these conduits and pipelines to be able to generate electricity. You know, you've got a little explaining to do, particularly when you're back east, because when we're talking about conduits out here, we call them ditches. Out of our ditches alone in the state of Colorado, if my bill is passed in ultimately to law and signed by the President, and we take full advantage of this legislation, out of the ditches of Colorado, with hydroelectric power, we're going to be able to generate as much electricity as the Boyden Canyon Dam. That's a positive step. That's going to be able to also create some jobs because somebody has to be able to put those in to be able to maintain those structures as well. Second piece of legislation which I passed through was the Planning for America's Energy Future Act of 2012.